Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herold here on Badlands Media. I am your host, John Herold, and very excited for today's guest. We are having Gabby Guccia back on. It's been a while since we've had her on, and we're going to get the story about what happened with her departure from OAN and the Pentagon. We'll maybe talk a little bit about the Epstein files, maybe the AutoPen stuff. We'll see how much we can get into 20 minutes. But before I get to her, we got to get a quick word from our two sponsors of today's show. First up, we have Goldco, which I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to gold and silver prices lately, but they're kind of going nuts. Have you heard about President Trump's impact on gold? Every time Trump's name surges in the headlines, gold goes with it. It happened the day he took office, and it's still going up. Gold doesn't just like Trump, it rallies around him. If you bought gold the day he became president, you'd be up almost $400 an ounce by now. Here's the thing. Gold has been used as a store of value for centuries. The government can easily manipulate it, and it's known as a hedge against market risk and inflation. How high will the price of gold go under Trump's second term? Will gold continue to break record after record in 2025 and beyond? Learn about an IRS loophole that allows you to diversify your savings with gold and silver, and it's tax and penalty free with a free copy of the gold and silver kit sent directly to your doorstep. Plus, you could qualify for up to 10% instant match in bonus silver. Visit badlandsgold.com to learn how you can add gold to your portfolio. That's badlandsgold.com. So for those of you who are wary of crypto, which I know some of you exist, I'd encourage you to check it out, badlandsgold.com. We also have one more sponsor quick. That's Rise Attire, and then we'll bring Gabby on.
Howdy, Badlanders. Looking for something new to grab from your friends at Badlands Media and Rise Attire? Summertime is here. We got you covered. All new tank tops for men and women, featuring new iterations of the Devolution design in black, red, white, and even blue and green digital camo. Sick. We got them for Psywar and Clown World too. How about these bad boys? Psywar, Clown World, and Devolution beach towels to help you spark up a conversation with your new best friend or future spouse at the pool. And by popular demand, we've got all new athletic women's leggings that'll have you red-pilling all the ladies in your Pilates class, whether they like it or not. Too bad. This is Badlands, baby, and we're strapped. Get some and support the new media parallel economy as much as fucking possible at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
All right, with that, let's bring Gabby on. Gabby, how are you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Before even, getting into all of this, it's just could be better. I think America could be better, considering that the whole point of the MAGA movement in and of itself was just to always have that freedom to ask questions and be critical with ourselves, with each other, especially with our government. I kind of been saying lately, Trump made the MAGA movement, right? He put a good tagline on there and quite literally wore the red hat, figuratively and literally. But that doesn't mean that America dies after this administration. And so we only have 4 years. That's a short bit. So to kind of see the decline, a lot of the things I put out in my 2 Substacks recently were the very things that I was warning about. And now look at where MAGA is and the contention that we have when it comes to Israel, Iran, the resuming of weapons from Ukraine, whether or not we were supposed to do those nuclear strikes. There's an Epstein files too, right? So it wasn't about me. This whole thing, even before we even talk about the details, I want to reiterate so much. It's not about me. I unfortunately got a first row view of exactly the concerns that I was warning about, but I don't want it to detract from the fact that we should always be asking questions and not let up even if we get kicked out, of which obviously I did. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, last time you were on for a show, and again, apologies for not having you on sooner. We should have you on right at the beginning. Yeah, there's a lot going on. But you were the Pentagon correspondent at OAN, and then kind of out of nowhere, the DoD wasn't doing press briefings. You were kind of pressing them on that, and all of a sudden you were no longer at OAN. And so I'm just wanted to give you a platform to share that story and and let the audience know what went on there.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, I mean, just even from the beginning, right? We all remember when X blew up because from Hegseth's office, they said, "Hey, we're gonna, get CNN out of their main suite, NBC, all these big outlets, and we're gonna bring in, say, Breitbart or One American News." And so, OAN contacted me. I worked for them in the past for a very brief time before becoming a security contractor, and they asked if I would be willing to come back into politics and take this job. And in my mind, I was like, "Of course I would." Again, with the security contractor background, like I know what questions I want to ask. I know what questions deserve answers that the public doesn't necessarily get to hear. And we say it's on the count of something's classified, but a lot of times in the government, things are overclassified at nauseum just to alleviate any dealings with public perception. So I always came from a good place knowing that I could do the job and wanting to do the job. And I honestly, and just being really candid, thought it would be damn easy considering, Hegseth, we kind of understand what his communication habits were being on Fox News all the time. And so, and people don't really realize this, but especially at the Pentagon, when you have a cabinet member, a secretary of defense, they're not necessarily like doing all the hard charge fighting or revamping necessarily. Remember, a lot of those people at the DoD are they are. There's, yeah, of course, there's going to be deep state everywhere, sure, but it's all the hardcore conservative patriots, and again, very different from any of the other entities. Quite literally, the hierarchy is commander in chief being Trump. So whenever he says something, it just gets done. And
Yeah.
that's at the high, and rank and file is just absolutely practiced far more than in any other entity when it comes to the military. So I say all that to say it's a pretty damn easy job in the sense of outside of all the budgeting and how big of a conglomerate it is. It's not difficult to get at a podium and just say all the great things that DoD has done. And there's been a ton of them, and we've even talked about them. And I reported on, I always make sure to report every single day. I was required to report from the Pentagon, and I reported every single day good things that were happening there.
Yeah.
So I just want to lay that out there. And there was nothing to hide. My reporting was displayed publicly every single day. There was never an issue. When there started to be an issue, so like when I first walked in, I noticed that the Pentagon briefing doors were locked, and that was brand new. That's never happened before. If you went to the White House and saw any of the briefing doors locked, people would be freaking out about it. Even when Trump's on a trip, those doors are wide damn open.
Yeah.
So I thought that was weird. I thought it was weird that Hegseth never did a press conference up until after I got fired, right? But both times that he had done them, again, he's only done two, it was at the direction of the president announcing it first. No heads up from Pentagon press corps, no coordinated. It was all by force. I can tell you also while being there, there was a exercised frustration from the White House in particular about Hegseth not doing any of these press briefings, and the way around it to kind of keep the administration at bay from him was, okay, well, I'll do these like the Fox News, the Will Kane show, like I'll do the more comfortability avenue versus having to sit down with, say, however you feel about Jennifer Hegseth, or sorry, Jennifer Griffin. I'm not dumb. People are very hypercritical of her reporting, and some would argue for really good reason. I'm not here to defend an individual or an outlet, but I am going to defend the ability to ask questions and the truth. So you saw, like, he
Yeah.
just wasn't even entertaining that. We talked about this, and this will, I'll tie this up real
Yeah.
quick,
No
but
worries.
um, so I thought that was interesting. I thought it was really weird that Susan Rice and a bunch of Obama Biden holdovers were still on the undersecretaries of defense, one of the policy boards. I reached out to Hegseth's team directly. They had told me in writing that they were unaware, they were unsure of what was going on with that. They didn't know. They said they'd give me an answer. Didn't hear from them, so I contacted the undersecretary's office directly via phone call and email, both of which they expressed in sureness that there was nothing wrong, quote unquote, wrong with the policy board and the personnel on there, and it's absolutely up to date. It wasn't until Caldwell, Darren Selnick, all those guys that got pushed out, and then Caldwell went on Tucker that everyone found out about the Susan Rice thing. And I was reaching out to Hegseth's team saying, y'all, I'm obligated to report this. I just want you give you the opportunity to kind of make right. I know you guys are still filtering into the Pentagon, whatever. There's a bunch of issues, so I'm trying to exercise patience, but also justly report what I'm seeing. Because if this was the Biden administration, I'd be raising hell about their shortcomings as well. Say all that to say, it appeared that maybe even that in of itself didn't make them too happy. But what I do, that's all speculative. But what I can say for certain is that in April, an individual from Hegseth's team, very high up in Hegseth's team that I know very well. And again, I'm alleviating from giving people's names, not because not because I'm fearful, but again, we start getting into the particulars of people's names, we start to lose sight of the actual issue here. The issue is that there was government infringement on a private civilian that was exercising a job from a company that is not supposed to be controlled by the government. And what happened is in April, this individual reached out to members of my former employer to let them know that they were frustrated with my reporting. And it was in direct response to me saying during the time of Singlegate, which, John, if you remember, like we talked about Singlegate, and a lot of it, I actually focused just on the technical apparatus of the government and COVCOM. Very much didn't even, not that I was trying to hide anything from anyone or do Hegseth any favors, but everyone else is talking about Hegseth. Like, I'm going to probably talk about the grander issue here. Just, covert communications has a huge lackability. So anyway, during that conversation, I was on one of the shows for my former employer where they had me on and they asked me about Singlegate. And then they had asked me the final question being, does Hegseth stay or go? And I was like, well, it's not that black or white. I said, based on Trump's first term, and not even that, but over the last many presidents, say at least the last 4 or 5, the president of the United States, the commander in chief, has gone through 2 to 3 secretary of defenses throughout their tenure. That is normal practice. They tend to pivot and do the seasonal change in the wintertime. Now, in conjunction with the fact that during Singlegate, you had Caldwell, Selnick, Joe Casper, all these people kind of shifting around, you could also look at, okay, the momentum of firing versus momentum of hiring. And so and so everyone's still tracking what I'm saying, I said all this on the network. And so I said, based on all those things, I would say the soonest that he would be out would be the winter time. I've heard from other sources that they're still gaming for fall. Just based on public perception now, with the administration having to fend off people that are displeased with Hegseth's performance, I imagine that they're probably going to still hold on until the winter time at a minimum. But again, I felt like that was a very fair assessment. I'm not going to start playing gatekeeping for people just because I love Trump or just because I want someone, I like the administration, or I'm conservative. I got to be honest, you got to be straight with it. So they contacted my employer, said that they were furious, were the words I was told explicitly. The same individual that told me about the contact that they had with the Hegseth staff, they also just said, keep doing what you're doing. And they didn't defend me. They wanted the administration to be watching their show. So they thought it was good clickbait and it didn't matter if they were mad or not for a second. So they held on to me for a little bit. I didn't realize it at the time because I made a joke and maybe I shouldn't have been that nice. Because it was at my expense. I said, hey, if they ever come after me again, I hope you guys defend me. And I laughed it off because I just didn't take it seriously. Very shortly after that, now I've had my Substack up for a while. I actually had posted articles prior. I had auto pen access, working for the first Trump administration, and I worked during Obama, and I've done some government work during Biden. So I say all that to say I've put out articles before on Substack. Some of them fell flat. So the only ones still standing right now are the 2 current ones about Hegseth and the auto pen. But as I produce these articles on Substack, I never had an issue from my employer. Even so much so, a key detail is that my employer actually had me on 2 times for a long-winded hour-long special about one of my Substacks about the auto pen. So there was never a conflict of interest, but I just want to make that known because I know that's kind of been the pushback. So after I put out the initial Substack, again, yeah, sure, was it a catchy tagline to say the Secretary of Defensive? Of course it was. But, my intent was never, and I reiterated that so many times, I served my country in ways that I can't actually exercise with words and say that I have outside of a normal civilian capacity. And that's not for me to ask people to go, thank you for your service. I did it because I love my country. And my country's over my government every single time. And I say that in the Substack article. I give all the facts. I mean, and this came at the time of when the memo was rolled out. So everyone was kind of getting all jacked up about Epstein and that memo being dropped July 4th weekend. A memo in similar fashion dropped at the Pentagon during Memorial Day weekend where no one would see it, where the press couldn't do their job at the Pentagon anymore, and it was in the name of national security, which just wasn't freaking true. I don't like CNN either. The worst thing they're doing right now at those Pentagon press people, again, I don't like them, and I don't enjoy their reporting. They're talking about trannies getting kicked out of the military.
Yeah.
That's their crime. Like, all the leaks that you hear are coming from direct personnel who then give it, whether it's a positive leak or a negative leak, to an outlet or to some random on Twitter to post about. And so they said it was in the name of undisclosed, unauthorized disclosures, but the Pentagon has a shoe shiner, a CVS, a Popeyes, a Starbucks, a sit-down restaurant, a dentist, a USPS. I mean, you name it, go down. I mean, they even have an Asian gift shop at the Pentagon. I say all those things to say those people are able to roam freely and can go far further out than a reporter can. And there's no reporter, I am telling you right now, that is going into classified spaces, going into skips. There's cameras everywhere. That's not how they do business. And I'm saying that again as someone that's a conservative that doesn't love what CNN does, but I was just as critical of them and read their reporting too, because I must know thy enemy, right?
Yeah.
So anywho, so we have the one time that they contacted my work. I disclosed and I'll illustrate this to your audience, the inner workings and the memo that was dropped. Felt very passionate about it. Everyone needs to know what's going on. So I write an article on Substack. 3 days later, I'm getting fired by the Pentagon first, and then by my former employer. The Pentagon, so the same individual who reached out the first time to say that they were upset that I knew Hegseth's timeline, the same individual reaches out again to now my bureau chief over in DC, and I'm called in moments later. And asked to turn in my Pentagon badge. That was a Thursday, and that Friday, May 30th, I was fired from the network. When I got the phone call from the network, they exercised a lot of frustration with me, saying that, don't you think this is going to make Hegseth mad? Don't you think your Substack's going to make him upset, or the people there upset? And sure, maybe. But I, as an American, I'm also upset that I would have thought it was fake news that his wife was at the Pentagon every day.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
crazy.
yeah, and and it's really important for people to understand, I'm not upset about my former employer. I'm solely more focused on the Pentagon contacting my employer twice. Now, after I get fired and people start to realize, well, she just got fired for what? She's always been MAGA, always been conservative. What happened? The Pentagon reaches out to me over the weekend, calls me and says, what do you want? Do you want your job back? We'll give you your job back. And I said,
Pentagon reached out to you about that?
Sorry?
The Pentagon reached out to you saying that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Definitively, I could absolutely prove it. I could give you the name. It's, again, I'm not doing that. I also don't want it to be a difficult time for this individual. So there was one person that did it, that reached out twice to express the frustration. This third contact was a new person that had apparently not reached out to my employer, but wanted to make right very high up, higher than the individual who contacted from Hegseth's team to begin with. Now a higher individual comes in. And yeah, that's what happened. I mean, there's plenty of more details in between about the inner workings of Hegseth that are not favorable, but just focusing on the fact that it was government intervention. That when they asked me, because they realized I was not being quiet, and again, I have a small following, which is fine. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but apparently my words mattered enough that you needed to fire me, and apparently my words mattered enough that you feel like you need to do right. And I said the only way that I would be okay with coming back in, I said, no, I'm not interested in working for an employer that doesn't want me to report the facts. But I would be interested in coming back to the Pentagon. But the only way I would do that is if you unlocked the press briefing room doors, as they always have been unlocked. I would like a sit-down interview, unscripted and unedited, with the Secretary of Defense to talk about the things that I claimed in my article that weren't true. Let's have an open discussion about it. Let's talk about any of the other topics that clearly the American people actually want to discuss, instead of getting yelled at and told they're idiots to think about whether or not uranium's been transported at Iranian nuclear sites. And I said, and better yet, you doing this kind of flips the whole script. Maybe it's not about government intervention anymore in a normal American's life. Prove me wrong, prove the left wrong. prove everybody wrong that is seeing this for what it is. I'm like, I can exercise the patience. Let CNN sit in and have this interview at the press briefing room with the doors unlocked, have CNN there, have CBS, have NBC, have all these guys out there, Fox News, whatever. Let us conduct this interview honestly and openly. Let me live stream it. I'm fine with that. If you want my questions ahead of time, fine. I'm not going to edit them, but you can have them ahead of time. And then after that, we can open up to a press briefing for everybody else to ask the questions that they've been waiting and wanting to ask too. Whether we think they're dumb questions or not, they're still questions.
Yeah.
So they didn't, they called with the intent thinking I wanted my job back so badly. And I said, I'd rather go poor. So
That's crazy. So, I mean,
yeah.
the real story here, in my opinion, is like we've seen this push from the administration itself and a lot of the cheerleaders online that this is the most transparent administration in history. And we've kind of made it a habit here at Badlands to kind of call that out, because we do see that from Trump. But I've always disagreed that this is not like the new media that we were promised from Carolyn Levitt and all these other people. Then we have somebody in there that's not, pushing out the talking points that the administration wants. And all of a sudden the Pentagon is interfering in your job and role at the Pentagon for that news organization. And all of a sudden you're out of there. Like that is not the transparency we were promised. And that is not like the free speech that, the Trump administration said that they were going to be defending. This is just this is a crazy story.
Yeah. Thanks. So I appreciate that. But I mean, this is not me to gas you up, but I see the people that are watching your stream, that watch your show, that comment on X after the fact on Rumble, and then the things that you say. Like, there's been plenty of maybe spicy things that I've said that might not be very sexy to MAGA, or like the birth of the movement, in some ways, because we love Trump so much. But there's not a lot of that anymore, and that's exactly what the article was. I mean, one of the direct quotes from my organization, because again, they were just so upset that Hegseth's team was upset, and they said something. Well, this is just a bunch of lies that you wrote. It's a bunch of lies, and I said that's the problem. I said, I was like, I'm younger than you guys. And I said, I went to Trump's alma mater. I went to UPenn. Granted, it was on scholarship. I ain't no money bags, but I went to UPenn, and I went the same year that Trump announced that he was running for president. And at my graduation, not only was it Trump there, but Biden was there too, because Naomi Biden, his granddaughter, was graduating the same year as me. And I say all that to say, I so distinctly remember being one of those outliers of a conservative at a liberal institution. And there it is, the current vice president and the president to be on this stage at my school with their family graduating the same time I am, and everyone booing Tiffany Trump and being so nasty. And a lot of my teammates when I was running track at UPenn thought I was a white supremacist just because I voted for Trump. And I say all that to say, it's not like a sob story, but like I've been there since the beginning. And I know that, again, like we started at the beginning of this conversation, yeah, he wears the hat of MAGA, but like, where does our country go after these next 4 years? Us oddly, weirdly drawing the line in the sand when our government does get it wrong. What Hegseth did, or what his team did, outside of what we want to say about my former employer, yeah, do I think that was weak? 100%. I would never work for them again. And I've had no problem saying that. It was wrong. What's even more wrong, and what I'm more concerned about, my old network, that's small beans, man. The government is the big chops here. Like, you can't do that. We can't start saying that we're all a bunch of losers because we're concerned about our activity around the Iran strikes, or the rescinding of the promise of the Epstein files. If it's fake, cool. I mean, we were told that the Hunter Biden laptop was a huge issue and that the Russia hoax was in fact a hoax. And we were given Marco Polo did a whole book on the Hunter Biden laptop. And we got all the info we needed for the Russia hoax, or at least enough to support the notion that, yes, this clearly was a cover up, of which DOJ employees went on the record saying anyway. So I say it all to say, why was it okay to question that stuff then? Like, that's the biggest difference between term 1 and term 2 right now. And that's what I warned about in my Substack. It was like a love letter to the movement that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying so hard to hold on to, because it's not about the individual, it's about the country.
Yeah.
So much.
What is the link for your Substack? I think I posted it earlier.
Yeah. You think I would know it all? Oh, I gotcha. It's my name, GabrielleCuccia.substack.com.
Yeah, I'd encourage you guys to check it out and read that article. We're a little short on time here.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, that's okay, but this story needs to be heard. I think it's important because there's so many people that don't want to say anything critical about what's going on because our guy's in there. But I say this all the time, guys. You can't just focus on the stories that feed your confirmation bias. There are going to be bad things that come out, and you have to learn to separate Trump from his administration because his administration is not always doing things that work in Trump's favor. Yeah, and where can people find you on social media too?
Gabby Cuccia on X, and then I switched to Gabby Loves America on Instagram, so nobody gets it twisted these days with all the bad press I got.
That's crazy. But if you're not getting bad press, you're doing something wrong. But thanks for coming on. We'll get you on again and not focus on the story, but focus on some of these other topics that are circulating because it's such a crazy news cycle these days. So appreciate your time, Gabby.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the time. Appreciate all your listeners too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So yeah, I mean that story is nuts. We don't ever want to think of anything surrounding Trump and his administration as being potentially negative. But I mean, the meat of that story is she was critical of the Pentagon, Trump's Pentagon, and the Secretary of Defense, and they contacted her employer and got her fired. Like that is an insane story. That is not something you would expect to hear from the Trump administration. That's just nuts. That's nuts to me, and should be concerning to everybody. So yeah, go read her article, and that's nuts. But we're gonna keep going through the headlines here because there's plenty to discuss. No update on the Doge website. No update as of now on the presidential website either, although I did hear rumors that Trump was signing some legislation today. So we'll see what happens. We did get a post from Trump on True Social, so I'm going to read through this, and then I have a couple things relating to this. It's the Epstein file stuff again. Apologies in advance, but the story's not going away. The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again. Just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier, the lying 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, which the Dems swore had come from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom. And even the Russia scam itself, a totally fake and made-up story used in order to hide crooked Hillary Clinton's big loss in the 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They are no good at governing, no good at policy, and no good at picking winning candidates. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. I've had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history, and all these people want to talk about was strong prodding by the fake news and the success star of Dems is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. This is fascinating on just so many levels. I still think it's so interesting. He's calling it the Jeffrey Epstein hoax and comparing it to the Russiagate stuff, the Hunter Biden laptop, and all those things, because if that's the case, as I've said on previous shows, he's equating it to like a narrative, a fabricated narrative used to put media pressure on a certain topic. It's narrative warfare, right? And I think that's interesting. And we may never know the truth of what's within the Epstein files because we may never see it. But you could also look at this as him goading even more people to release these things. That's a totally real possibility. And I have this clip of him today. Play this.
Move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your attorney general told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen?
No, it's not the attorney general. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier. That turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. No, it's I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements, we've had a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead.
Doing the Democrats' work by dividing the MAGA movement. And it's kind of brilliant how this unfolded. If what he's saying is taken at face value, okay, if we're just taking at face value, which, as I've said before, you never should do that with Trump because he's always playing, narrative warfare, psyops, all those things. But just taking it at face value, what the intention behind the Russia collusion hoax and the Hunter Biden laptop, all these things, it was to spin a narrative that people would buy into for them to act a certain way. And in both those cases, it was to think Trump was, connected to Russia somehow. The Hunter Biden laptop was a Russia hoax to spin the election in Trump's favor, right? And was it successful? Did it work? I would say to a degree, yes. I mean, some of that's lost its luster now, but for a long time, people thought Trump colluded with Russia. Some still do believe that. And then Trump and other people have said that the Hunter Biden laptop itself swayed the election 17 points, whatever it was. Now, this year, if what he's saying is taken at face value, and it is a hoax of some sort similar to those, the narrative behind him not releasing it and being transparent about it, because he's not giving the people what they think is in there, is having a similar narrative effect. People are believing that he is covering it up. And again, guys, because I don't know what's in the files, none of us do, it is possible that they are covering something up. It is possible this is tied to other investigations. We don't know what we don't know. But listening to what Trump is saying here, that's what he's comparing it to. And it's just so interesting to me because it is having the same effect. And the reason I say like this thing is brilliant, if what he's saying is true, and this is a hoax created by somebody else to later be dropped and split the movement, it worked very, very well, because no matter what happens, no matter what comes out of this, unless if it's anything short of like people like Bill Clinton and all those people, Obama and all these world leaders, raping kids, like if that evidence doesn't come out, people will think it's a cover up. This is a situation and a topic where we may never get the full truth behind, and they'll never be able to satisfy people's confirmation bias. And that's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, this story is clearly not going away. We have a clip here from John Solomon saying that Trump is backing a special prosecutor to look into Epstein.
Said it.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, he was just very candid, very open, very detailed, very focused. Let's start with the big thing. He clearly learned in the last few days about the grand conspiracy case that Kash Patel at the FBI opened. He embraced it. He said, I like it. It's a good approach. I didn't know about it until you reported on it, and I shouldn't need to know about it. But it's the right approach of looking at the last decade of going after conservatives as a criminal conspiracy. He said he was open to a special prosecutor. And he said that special prosecutor should just take a look at Epstein and make sure there's nothing there to give the American public a little more latitude, a little more confidence that we're not hiding anything. I'm not hiding anything. We have nothing to hide. But if he wants to look at anything legitimate, they're there. So I think the president's behind the special prosecutor, behind going after the last decade as a criminal conspiracy to use the judicial system to punish political enemies, and also to keep his hands off it. He said, this is in Pam and Kash's hands. They do the work, but I like the idea from what you reported. I thought that was big. He's not going to fire Jerome Powell, but he sure hopes that Jerome Powell resigns. I think that was a big moment in the interview. People will hear what he has to say about that.
I saw somebody in the chat asking, what's a hoax? What's the hoax here? The hoax would be that the real Epstein story is much smaller than people think, like much more specific, much smaller than people realized at the beginning. And this is kind of what I've been saying, like, where did it get its lore from? How did it get to this huge quagmire that it is now? Is it possible that people have not understood what it was initially, and it just got completely blown out of proportion? Not saying the crimes were blown out of proportion, guys. I'm not saying the crimes, as alleged, are insignificant, because that's like the worst possible crime you could possibly imagine. Anything relating to hurting kids. Totally agree with that. But if we don't know what we don't know about the Epstein files, and it's totally possible that even guys like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who had pushed the Epstein narrative, when they got in there, they realized that it wasn't what they thought it was, and this is where we're at. But it's just such an interesting thing. Trump is supporting, a special prosecutor now, and I think that's notable. You also have Thomas Massie and some people supporting this legislation. They want a release of the Epstein files, and this is how it should be done. Ro Khanna tried to do an amendment to the crypto bill, and that got shot down in the Rules Committee. A separate standalone bill I'm totally in favor of. I would love to see how people vote on this, because it is kind of telling, like, who is actually in favor of transparency and who isn't. I'm in total favor of any and all kinds of transparency. I don't think anything should be kept in secrecy. It's just wrong. We're in charge. This is our government. All this stuff should be public. So if there's any shenanigans, it should be out there on the record. But yeah, they're looking to release of documents relating to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. They want everything. Here, I'll read it. Make publicly available within 30 days of the enactment of this act, in searchable and downloadable format, all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in the possession of the DOJ, including the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's offices, that relate to Jeffrey Epstein, including all investigations, prosecutions, or custodial matters, Ghislaine Maxwell, flight logs or travel logs, including but not limited to manifests, itineraries, pilot records, customs, or immigration documentation for any aircraft, vessel, or vehicle owned, operated, or used by Epstein or any related entity, individuals, including government officials named or referenced in connection with Epstein's criminal activities, civil settlements, immunity or plea agreements, or investigatory proceedings, entities, corporates, all those things, immunity deals, internal DOJ communications, all communications, memoranda, directives, flight logs, all those things, documentation of Epstein's detention or death, including incident reports. Just everything. Like, they want it all out there, and I think this is a great thing to vote on. We'll see if it gets brought to the floor. We'll see if it gets brought to the floor. But yeah, with that, let's move to the next story here. So we do have an update, and some of this we'll talk pretty heavily in detail tonight. Actually, before I even move on, let me make sure. Let's see what the chat's saying. I'm appalled the number of people that seem to want it proven that high society people actually did satanic sacrifice on kids. Yeah, I would love to see the proof of that too. I mean, I'm obviously for justice and accountability. I want to see that. I'm just worried that this is such a topic that the way it has gone, the virality of this topic has made it such that there may not be a solution to satisfying people's confirmation bias. That's my concern. That is my concern. Yeah, Dragon45, I don't think you know either, John. None of us know. I'm totally agree. I don't know. None of us know. That's kind of the point. None of us know, yet half the people are claiming, like more than half the people are claiming to know what's in there, and that these files are going to like verify and confirm something, but you don't know that either. And Trump is out here saying one thing. I know he's the PSYOP master, but none of us know. And if we did know, we wouldn't be asking for the files, as Chris Paul said. Go says, I was totally on the rug for the Epstein stuff, but now I'm backing off based on what Trump is saying. I think we should all still be demanding transparency at all times. We should be demanding truth. We should be wanting to be done with the forever PSYOPs. Still demand those things, of course. but also be ready, be mentally prepared for the thought and the idea that we were wrong. People were wrong about what they said about the Epstein files. And that's the part that I think people are going to have a hard time accepting. There's a lot of people that built up this Epstein narrative into something. And if it comes out that they're wrong about it, like they're already having a hard time. We've been taking a more critical stance on the Epstein stuff from the beginning. I think just as not everybody in Badlands, but just generally as a network, as we usually do, like we try to see all sides of the argument and don't just fall in line with the positivity and the unity and the cheerleading and everything. And ever since we've started taking this more, what I would consider a realistic approach to the information, like not trying to feed everybody's confirmation bias, not trying to make everybody feel warm and fuzzy, we are all of a sudden like getting attacked again. Like it's the same people that have been attacking us for 3 years, all the same people. And it's all the same people that have been building up the Epstein thing to be a certain thing that it may not be anymore. And instead of like going after or accepting the truth of that, they just decide to take down the people that are actually trying to figure out what's going on. It's just kind of ridiculous. We have a Rumble rant from Melon Ryan saying, why don't they just tell us why it's overblown? Why the delay? That's a great question too. Me and Ash actually have a bet on the Epstein stuff. And I think I'm going to have her on tomorrow so we can disclose, like, we're going to put it out there publicly what our bet is. And you guys can help us determine what the prize should be. So you guys should start thinking about what should the winner get in our bet. It's related to Epstein files and this RICO case, which I'm going to talk about right now. This is from Grace Chong. John Solomon again on with Bannon.
He made 2 big pieces of news in the middle.
Yesterday we talked about, and on some of the power hours, we'll talk about this again tonight. We've been talking about this big RICO case that's being built and some of the things they're waiting to declassify. Yesterday I talked about those specifically, and this is what John Solomon said about it.
He made 2 big pieces of news in the middle interview. He is going to declassify the classified annex that showed that the FBI had new intelligence on Hillary Clinton's emails and chose not to look at it. We're going to, for the first time ever, get to see what that intelligence is. He's declassifying that. And then the intercept where they find out Hillary Clinton approved the Russia hoax. He's going to declassify that. Letting a grand jury see that, something John Durham couldn't even do, will be a huge advantage to whoever the prosecutor is and for the FBI to get moving.
Declassification. Trump is saying that he will declassify the 2 bombshells that Durham never could. One of them is the annex showing that the FBI ignored new intel on Hillary's emails. And then the other, the intercept they got of Russian intelligence proving that Hillary approved the Russia collusion hoax, even though we already like knew that. I think seeing the actual details and how that sausage was made is going to be interesting. So very curious to see if these get put out publicly or when they get put out publicly, because if he declassifies them, they will. That's gonna be fun. Lots of rumors floating around about Trump potentially firing Powell soon. A lot of these rumors are coming from Anna Paulina Luna. Yesterday, Trump met with a bunch of Republicans over the crypto thing because there was kind of a hiccup in getting that thing passed. I think he met with, let me find the post. He met with like 12 of them. Oh wait, hold on. I gotta get back to the top here. He met, hold for processing. Right here. I'm in the Oval Office with 11 of the 12 congressmen and women necessary to pass the Genius Act. And after a short discussion, they've all agreed to vote tomorrow morning in favor of the rule. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was at the meeting via telephone. He looks forward to taking the vote as early as possible. I want to thank the congressmen and women for their quick and positive response. Make America great again. Coming out of this meeting, Anna Paulina Luna starts reporting that she's hearing from a very serious source or something that Powell is going to be fired. But then today, Trump said he doesn't want to fire him. I don't think I have that link pulled up, but we'll see what happens. But it was just really funny watching her antics. You guys know I'm such a big fan of Anna Paulina Luna. She posted that she's hearing that Trump is going to be fired. Somebody online quote truths it or quote tweets it, whatever, quote X's it. I don't even know what they call that anymore. Reposted it with the caption, reporting now, or new reporting, or breaking news. Anna Paulina Luna says that Jerome Powell is going to be fired. And then Anna Paulina Luna reposts that and says, confirmed, like as if somebody reposting her original post is somehow confirming the reporting. I just thought that was really, really funny. Anyway, we'll keep going here. I had no idea if it's actually going to happen. it'd be quite the lawsuit, though, the angle they'd have to take, because the Fed's supposed to be independent. If they go after him and try to fire him for the $2.5 billion mismanagement of the new Fed facilities or whatever, it's all so interesting. Oh man, I got 15 minutes left. Let me see. This isn't a huge story, but Google is merging Android and Chrome OS into a single platform. Oh, this is a big one. We'll talk about this tonight as well. Senate confirms Anthony Tata as Undersecretary for Personnel and Readiness at the Pentagon. The Senate voted 52-46 on Tuesday to confirm him. In the role, Tata will advise the Defense Secretary on matters ranging from management of military and civilian personnel, force readiness and health affairs, National Guard operations, education and training. He'll also help implement Trump administration reforms, including cost-cutting efforts tied to the DOGE. A retired Army Brigadier General and West Point graduate, Tata previously served as acting Undersecretary of Defense for Policy during Trump's first term. Tata later became a political commentator and continued to support Trump's defense agenda. And the reason I find this interesting, I mean, there's many reasons too, but obviously, if you've been following my work at all, he's featured fairly prominently in the Devolution series. And also, Ezra Cohen Watnick reposted this and said, hold on, I gotta find that too. Should have had this prepared. My bad, guys. Right here. Congratulations to my good friend and colleague, Anthony Tata, on getting confirmed to be the DoD Undersecretary of Defense Personnel and Readiness. Tony's confirmation marks a great day for DoD as it moves quickly to increase readiness and lethality and prioritize the well-being of our troops and their families. No one is better suited to this job. Again, we'll talk about more in detail later tonight. But I did think it was interesting. A while ago when he first got nominated for this position, I had DM'd with him in the past, and then he kind of like stopped DMing me once I started asking devolution questions. But I just said, hey, congrats on your nomination. And his response was kind of interesting. I won't like go into full detail, but paraphrasing, he's like, yeah, thanks. Just trying to kind of fly under the radar is essentially what he said. He wants to fly under the radar, doesn't want a bunch of attention drawn to it or him or anything. But then I did send him a congrats message this morning and he said, thanks, which is kind of cool. Anyway, we'll keep going here. The guy in Minnesota who killed those local politicians said that, or is claiming in that letter, they released the letter now, that he acted on Governor Walz's orders in killings of Minnesota lawmaker and husband. Vance Bolter, 57, allegedly left the letter in a vehicle near his home, recovered the day after the June 14th killings, in which he identified himself as the shooter at large in Minnesota. Addressed to FBI Director Kash Patel, the note claimed Bolter had been trained by the U.S. military, sent on classified missions, and later approached by Walz to assassinate Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith because Tim wants to be a senator. Prosecutors say Bolter confessed to the killings in the letter, but claimed he acted under threat to his family, eventually turning against others involved in the alleged plot, killing them too. A federal grand jury has now indicted Bolter on upgraded murder and attempted murder charges in connection with the fatal shooting. And yeah, he's expected to appear in court this week. Randy Edgerly does not seem to be happy with the economy. Not for me. The economy is freaking hideous. Trump's a liar, not a psyop. It's a lie. Am I wrong about the economy? I don't necessarily think you're wrong. I mean, a lot of the economic moves, and maybe this is kind of providing cover for what Trump is saying, and I'll admit that, but like I wasn't expecting the economic windfall to come for like a couple of years. The tax breaks or the stuff that he's keeping in there, that should say the same. The tariff income, a lot of these things, like we're just starting to see in the next couple of months. All the executive orders Trump issued in his first day in office, a lot of those came with like 120-day, report thing, and then we implement and all these things. A lot of that isn't quite the switch theory stuff. Like a lot of that is more chips, and like we're working on the immigration stuff, deporting all these illegals. I would be more concerned if after like the 1 year mark we haven't started to see some of the more changes to us, so we're seeing the inflation numbers not like skyrocket. We're seeing the job reports numbers where Americans are getting jobs and we're deporting illegals. And, for a while there was a stretch where all the new jobs that were added were not all, but a majority of the new jobs added were for illegal immigrants. That's changed. And so I'd be more concerned if after the year mark, we're not even seeing minor changes. But again, a lot of the tariffs aren't being implemented until August 1st. So let's give them another couple months, Randy. I totally agree with the sentiment, though, that we haven't seen the changes that we're being told we are seeing. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of some of the interesting aspects of this is we're being told things are like so great and so awesome, and we're not really feeling it yet. But the changes that are being made are good ones. But I have the same arguments towards like the new media. We're being told transparency, new media, all these things. We haven't actually seen that yet. So yeah, I totally get the sentiment. And some of it too is your state stuff, by the way. It depends what state you live in. Richard Rohr, okay, pill mill hour, John. You can call me a black pillar. Sometimes the truth is not easy for everybody to hear. And I've promised, and I'll promise again, I will never be the one to just feed your confirmation bias, feed you the warm and fuzzies. There are plenty of podcasters out there that will just try to make you feel good inside. I'm not that guy. Afraid Awakening, man, what the hell? Where you been? Where have you been? I missed you. Afraid Awakening says, pretty obvious that they hold him back because the files reveal that Michelle Obama has a penis. Mohab, good to see you, John. So good to see you too. We've been wondering where you've been. Me and Zach have been texting about it. Like, what the hell's going on? Israel strikes hit Syria, delaying Netanyahu trial. Somehow, Netanyahu has delayed his trial once again. Isn't that crazy? New target, though. Not Iran. Now it's Syria. Super interesting how that keeps happening. Senate Republicans advanced Trump's spending clawback bill with VP Vance's tie-breaking support. So remember, Trump, he put forth like $9.4 billion worth of rescissions, and it needs to be voted on by Congress. And here we have the Senate. We had Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, and Lisa Murkowski voted against the rescissions. So it was tied. Vance had to come in. It's kind of crazy how many times the vice president has had to come in when we allegedly have a majority in the Senate. Isn't that weird? Like a 3-seat majority or 6-seat majority, technically. Kind of weird. Despairing Hunter Biden says Democrats lost election due to disloyalty to his father. You guys think that's the case? I'm not even like reading the story, but I just think I was always wondering what Hunter Biden thought was the reason they lost the election. And then I got this from Jasmine Crockett, little lib meltdown.
It seems like blue states are constantly putting red states on life support, yet we got these little red states that ain't contributing nothing, but they are definitely taking up a lot of money. You know, it is interesting because the governor in California, I don't know if you caught this, but Governor Newsom was talking about just holding on to his dollars because California is what they call a donor state, meaning that they actually contribute more than they take from the federal government. And then you can go down south to states like Louisiana who are broke. And so they need California to pay in. So it is so interesting that we are so concerned about whether or not we are pushing certain ideologies. It seems like blue states are.
Oh, she's so stupid. Yeah, Dr. Name Only in the chat says, John and Chris out here trying to make America think again. I absolutely love that. Love that. Thank you. Let me see if I have any other rants here before I sign out. I don't have a guest lined up for the rest of the week, so tomorrow and Friday I'll be back to like my more traditional show where I take more time on the stories and whatnot. But Rocky Top Apologist, I missed this one, says $2 for the chat quota. Thank you. Mad Mr. Fox, Epstein start, and then it's a Q link. I'll check that out. Not right now though. Lance 2002, the Epstein case may be a hoax due to the fact that it was a distraction at this point in time. Love the show, guest and time slot. Thank you. And then Fred Awakening is so good to see you, man. Been so long. Ty Indie Boy 12, Ty Indie Boy Ty, please feed my confirmation bias. I will do that, Ty. You are tall. You are not short. How's that? Anything else you guys want me to say? Because it is 5 minutes to 1. Richard Rohr, sad when Burning Bright is the voice of reason. It's not sad. I think that's a good thing. Again, I mean, everybody has their opinions on this stuff. I'm not trying to say I'm right, but you don't know if I'm wrong either, you know? And some people have their thoughts on this thing, and they're possibly just as right as anybody. We just don't know. It's like, I'm going to voice my opinion. You guys don't have to agree with me. That's totally okay. I don't want everybody to agree with me. I'm not trying to get everybody to agree with me. I'm just saying how I'm seeing things. And it's cool. You guys don't need to get on board. PJ Corin, why is Brian Cates being a shit stirrer? It's crazy how many people will, in the truther community, will put out bullshit and lies without ever even trying to get to the bottom of the truth. And it's all the same people in from the same genesis who've been attacking Badlands Media for 3 years. All the same people, just coming in different waves. It happens. John, just say white is right. I'm not gonna say that, even though I just did. Deb Rich, new show last night was awesome, very informative. Alpha and Josh rock. I didn't get a chance to actually watch the full thing, but yeah, I mean, we're putting this time slot for a trial run. See how people respond to it. Feedback seems to have been really good. If it does stay on the network, I don't know if it'll stay in that time slot. Because I think that's what we're gonna do with that. Like, keep it kind of an OnlyLands thing, and then as we bring on new people, we'll feature it in that time slot for a while, give us some breaks, and then give some eyeballs to new shows, and then we'll figure out a spot for it. But I'm glad people liked it. But I know people really just like OnlyLands. Unlisted expat, can't we all just get along? If you'll notice, we never engage in the drama like that with those people. So yeah, we would love that. Don't care what time slot, but I vote to keep it. Okay, we'll see what happens. Spartacan Sardakar. Most people are lazy and refuse to do any real research. Trump lies to your face, Biden lies to your face, and people go along. Everybody lies to our face all the time. Everybody. It's narrative warfare, psyops constantly. But this is exactly at Wahlberg. We can't excuse lies to fight lies, evil to fight evil. We just need full, transparent truth. That's just it. Like, if you know people are lying to you, you call it out. Trump, like, as I've said this before, Trump is the only one I'm willing to give benefit of the doubt to, because I know he's the only one that is engaged in the psyops for whatever reason. Like, he will literally take both sides, as Chris said, good cop, bad cop, with the same issue. And he does it intentionally. Like, he's trying to get people that agree with whatever side to go all in, and then it gives him the narrative shielding for it. But you still call it out if it's so important to focus on what your first principles are and the principles of any argument, because if you're just supporting an argument because the person you like says it, you're going to fall flat in your face. So I appreciate that comment. Rick Young, John, trust no one. InfoWars on, deep state backed in a corner. Yeah. Mike Irons, what channel was Alpha and Josh on? It was here. It was on Badlands last night. It's DEFCON 0, I think. So anyway, guys, I'm going to end with that. I'll be back tonight with the Power Hour at 10:30 Eastern with Burning Bright. And then, one more comment from Spartan. Not everybody lies. People who speak the truth are censored, debanked, or worse. Been there, man. I'm totally agree with that. We're in that group of 6 YouTube accounts, debanked, kicked off PayPal, booted off Twitter, all those things. We're attacked constantly by all the truthers in the movement. It's ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, we'll catch you all tonight, and I'll be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Daily Herold. Y'all have a great rest of your Wednesday.
0. 1.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
2. 3. Let's get started.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me? Stopping me.